So after our unboxing, it is now time to talk about our experiences with the Grid X. For those of you unaware, Polar makes some of the best sports watches in the world. But for years they have been primarily focused on running. That started to shift in my mind with the release of the M400 and especially with the release of the M430. Now those watches and some before allowed for different sports profiles, but all of the relevant functions and data were geared mostly towards running. But with the M430 you clearly notice a shift in marketing towards a multi-sports watch and adding more functionality. Like always on heart rate tracking built into the watch itself, a fitness test for general fitness, and because it now has a 24/7 heart rate monitor, it can also monitor sleep cycles. I have used the M430 for almost 3 years now and was always very happy with the results and the constant reminders to work out, kind of like little motivational nudges. But it was time for something more. The M430 aged and the Vantage series was released. But bam, a few months ago this outdoor sports watch was launched, the Grid X. And after wearing it for 2 weeks now, having done several workouts with it and sports activities, I must say I am really impressed. But also I have some gripes. So let's start off with the bad. The screen is a touchscreen, but it does not respond very well. And I need to be very clear, when it responds okay, but sometimes getting it to respond is a challenge, to say the least. You could do it with the buttons, but because the buttons allow you the same amount of control. But if you want to make a touchscreen, make sure it at least activates when your fingers touches it, and the other way around as well. Water droplets regularly activate the screen, so you might want to lock the screen when showering by holding the light button for a few seconds. And this next one is really minor because I love the way it feels on my wrist, but if I personally could change something, it would be working on the wristband itself. This is so much better than the older M430, but because you do have to wear it tight, I do still get some irritation, but honestly I'm so used to it, and this wristband is night and day compared to the M430, so it's a little bit of a minor gripe. So now off to the good, and oh does it have a lot of good. As I mentioned above, the wristband is amazing. The color screen itself is good looking, sharp and crisp, and gives you the data you want when you want it, in a clear and easy interface. Also something Polar nailed is the interface itself, which is easy to recognize, very intuitive and easy to navigate. So the moment you turn it on, even without reading the manual, because who does that nowadays, you feel comfortable and you can find any setting you want within a few minutes of using it, which just makes it an absolute breeze to use. Another good thing is the clear setup from the beginning with the phone app, which is quick and easy. I always felt the M430 was a bit slow with this and a bit hit or miss, but I've had no issues with the Grid X setting it up and syncing it since then. Another feature I really like is the screen turning on when you twist your wrist, especially handy in the dark of course. But it's just a simple touch that you will immediately appreciate, until it doesn't work for a second, and then you immediately realize how much you've already gotten used to it and how much use you have for it. I also kind of want to revisit the wristband again for something you do not see often on any watches. The straps on it keep the wristband in place, like these small straps. They have small protrusions on it to keep them in place instead of sliding up and down, which is a game changer in my mind. They stay nice and firmly in place and therefore keep the wristband in place. And I'm a big fan of a little touch like that to keep them in place. So this is enough about the ergonomics. Now let's dive into the monitoring functions. I've used it on 2 longer strips on a paddleboard, and I'm disappointed Polar does not offer the sports option for stand-up paddleboarding, especially since it's one of the fastest growing sports in the world. But using canoeing seems to do the trick just about right. Most of the movements are the same, you are just standing instead of sitting down. It seems to be accurately record the GPS trail, more accurately than the M430. The watch can link with pretty much any global positioning satellites and does so within seconds, compared to the slower M430, which sometimes had issues quickly connecting and asking you to stand still. The difference here is probably related to the fact that Grid X can connect to GPS, Galileo and GLONASS as its 3 main sources of positioning satellites. It can also connect to the QZSS system, but that's for when you're in Japan. But the Grid X regularly shows connections with well over 12 satellites, and the results were very accurate from what we could tell. We used a different GPS as well, but sadly lost the results, so could not implement it in this video showing you the examples and differences maybe if they would have been there. And quite honestly, it doesn't really matter as much, because you can clearly see it is being very accurate just from the path we took. The heart rate monitor seems to be very accurate as well, but I never had any complaints with the M430 either. When in sports, by the way, it locks the touchscreen, which is a nice touch, especially when swimming, for instance, since water does activate the screen regularly, as for instance in showers. Another important feature I'm happy that is on here is the fueling option. A smart option to keep you carbed up and hydrated. Now, I have not used it for carbs, but the hydration part is very handy. I regularly forget to drink all day, and getting regular reminders is very helpful. Although it can be a little bit annoying as well, so set it up to your preferred intervals. So the fueling option we still need to get into in depth, because of a small injury I'm holding off on that till I'm working out on a regular basis again, before I overload myself with food and gain too much weight on top of the injury. So we might do a video about that in the future. Another thing I'm very happy with is the serene option. Why? I stress a lot and my girlfriend hates it and worries when I do. And basically it's a built-in breathing option to help you relax. It can also help you reduce your heart rate after a very intense workout, which is never a bad thing. It probably could help a lot of people with anxiety and hyperventilating not having that happen to them. So moving on, another feature I have got myself to use quite a lot is the sleep and recovery option this watch provides. The data shows you what your sleep pattern is and where you are lacking, and it can help you try and identify problems with your sleep pattern or sleep issues and increase your rest and recovery. So all in all, we are pretty excited at this second week mark with this watch and looking forward to use it to prepare for some challenges for next year. So if you've liked this review, please like and subscribe this channel. We hope to provide you with a lot more interesting content in the future. We might do a follow-up of this watch in the future if we feel a need to address something or have some interesting things to add that could be some added value, or sports or exercise, something like that. We're not sure, so keep an eye out for that. We hope you liked it. Again, please like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see everybody in the next one.